Welcome to Conspiracy Crypto Pirates, episode 10.
That's amazing.
I know, I'm so excited to record this one.
Double digits.
Double digits.
Let's go.
Woo! I can't believe we made it.
Right?
Man, it seems like we haven't recorded in forever. I was thinking earlier this week, I was like, man, I'm itching to get back in and have a conversation because I feel like there's so much I want to say. And then I know you have so much you want to say, and I'm curious what you have to say. So
Right.
I just want to get started and get going.
Cool.
Oh, something really exciting
Yeah.
is one of our fans out there.
Yeah. That was exciting.
He reached out. His name is Artie Beats
Artie.
on Instagram. Thank you so much. He liked and subscribed on Instagram and on YouTube, which we want to do YouTube for sure.
Yeah, great encourager too.
Yeah, really encouraging. It was awesome talking with him. A few messages back and forth, so awesome. Please send us your messages and don't forget to subscribe.
Right. And also your comments are amazing. Even the ones that say that we're dumb. We love them.
Yeah, it actually makes our day. But yeah.
Just don't start a hate campaign.
Yes. But I wanted to talk with you. What's new in crypto?
Ooh.
That's supposed to be that big of a pause.
I mean, there's a lot going on, but in particular, something new. I don't really know, like, anything in particular new. I know there's a lot of just small little developments. The biggest thing was the ETFs.
Yeah, that happened, what, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's the biggest thing lately. I know there's a lot of rumors of ETFs coming into XRP and Ethereum, which is exciting.
Right. I know.
Had the cool-off time.
Yeah, I know the market's been it's been flat, if not gone down a little bit since the ETFs have come out, which is...
Buy the rumor, sell the news.
It's always funny because, like, you know that to be true, and yet you're always surprised every time. You're like, this time,
I can't. No. It's still going to go higher.
This time it's going to be different because it's the ETFs.
If you feel like you're doing something wrong, you're probably doing it right.
Right? So true. Oh, man. But, yeah, so you said potential, like, Ethereum and XRP ETF coming out?
I mean, just rumors.
Okay.
I haven't really seen any big news that say, or big names that say yay or nay, but...
I've seen a couple weird things, and I think it's kind of like a disinformation campaign on the XRP ETF. I'll see, like, one day it'll be an article where it's like, oh, BlackRock's really, it's going to happen, bunch of evidence, and then there'll be the next day it'll be like, oh, BlackRock's throwing it away, they're not doing it, so it's like, who do you believe?
Pump and dumps.
Yeah.
It's probably the same person just writing it.
Well, yeah, it probably
buy,
is.
Buy, sell.
Right, but I mean, the market's hardly even moving with all that news, so, yeah.
We're used to it.
I know, at this point it's like, we're just holding, just hold.
Yeah.
Diamond hands.
But no, I thought it was very interesting. So, you know Kathy Ward with ARK Invest?
Yeah.
She was saying that Bitcoin, where it's at right now, if you get a 60% increase year over year for the next like 5 or 7 years, you get it, it'll be $1 million coin.
60%, like 60% this year, next year, 60%. Yeah. Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, compounding.
I would hope so after 5 years.
We know it's going to go up and then down, so I was thinking the next cycle, she's probably thinking it's going to be $1 million coin.
Oh, next cycle.
Yeah.
So like
5 years from now.
Okay. I always wonder with the cycles, because you know it's every 4 years. When does that 4 years start and end?
Well, I mean,
like you know how we're going into, I just said like a bunch of times. I hate that. You know how we're going into the bull run now. When is it bull run is a year?
Yeah.
Is it 4 years after that ends, or is it like starting now 4 years and then you have a cool off period of 3 years?
That's a difficult one.
Yeah.
No, I think it's at like the peak to peak.
Peak low, peak high.
Yeah.
4 years. Okay.
No, peak high to peak high.
Oh, peak high to peak high.
Yeah, because it says like, oh, every election season.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but
Okay.
so
Sweet. Is that
Right.
all the crypto news you got?
all no. So yeah, so I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
If you compound it at 60%, if you have 40,000, it's $1 million or 47,
Yeah.
whatever it was. I thought she said 4.5, but she might have been compounding that to 10 years.
Well, if it's if it compounds every year 60%, I feel like it'd be higher than $1 million, because
Well,
say
for
40.
10 years, yeah. I think it was like 8 if I was doing the math
Okay.
right. Like at 8 years, if you compound it, it's about 1.5 million, which is like 2 cycles.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. My brain was thinking doubles,
Yeah.
and okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay,
Yeah.
definitely $1 million on the dot.
Which, I mean, like you look at it, it's like it's $1 million. There's no way it's ever going to reach that.
Yeah,
But the progression, like if you go slow progression,
and Bitcoin, or just coins in general, cryptocurrency, it doesn't really do a slow progression. Like it's always shoots up like hundreds of
shoots down.
percent.
Yeah. Well, over the long progressing time,
Yeah.
it's a slow, gradual. Well, not really
Yeah.
slow, gradual, but it's slower than like if you were to buy now and then wait a year and then sell. That growth is going to be like 10x instead
Yeah.
of, or 20x or 30x
Right.
or whatever it's going to be instead of that 60%.
Basically,
But
if you held it over that period, because you're never going to time the market perfect. So
Yeah.
if you held it, it'd be 60% growth. That makes sense. Awesome.
And then if we do get a flip of a switch, like I mean, it's always the fear holding on to it, and then the flip of the switch
Yeah.
goes right after you sell.
Right.
So it's also knowing what you're going to do with
For
the
sure.
money after you sell.
Right.
And we'll probably be talking
Well-
more and more about that in about a year to come.
Right. Because, I mean, I know in the last bull run, like, it was hard to sell when it was going up so rapidly, because you're thinking, oh, I could take the money out, but I'm thinking, well, what other asset class would I put it in that it would grow at even remotely
Yeah.
this high of a rate? So then that almost kept you in it, even though you knew you should sell and like take the money, but you're like, but it's growing at 60% a day. You know, what else is gonna do that?
I remember we were in a group setting, you pulled me aside, you're like, what? I was like, oh.
Yeah, and I was like, do I sell? Do I buy? Do I sell? There's no way it's going higher. Well, it might go. Oh man,
Oh my.
that's terrible.
Hindsight is always
Oh yeah,
so much better.
I'd already be a multi-millionaire by now if I had.
And it kept on growing.
Yeah.
But one thing that I thought was interesting last year that I was thinking about is like, well, the last cycle it went up and then it dropped and then it went up again. I'm
Okay.
like, why did it go up again?
Last year?
No, not last year.
Oh, last
cycle. Remember, it hit its peak and then it like started dropping really quickly, and then it went up again really sharp, and
Yeah.
then it dove.
So a lot of the time, the bull run cycles, it goes from like January, mostly February, March, April, May, and then summer months are always a cool off period, and that's when you have that dip, and then in still the bull run year, once school starts back up, businesses after summer,
Yeah.
going into the holidays, it always shoots back up. So that's why you have your
No, I
dip.
mean like shortly. Like it skyrockets, like at its peak, it starts going down, and then it goes back up before the summer months. Like this is April, May
Yeah.
time frame, and then it goes back down.
Right.
Why do you think it would go back up?
I think because a lot of those people sold, a lot of people are selling, taking profits, probably the whales, honestly, because it's going to have that bigger effect. And then it drops a bit, and then the whales buy back in before summer months.
So what I would say is I mean, the whole summer months is like going down. Like after your peak, you're dropping
Yeah.
for like a year straight.
Yeah.
And so my thought is that the whales. So everyone was selling, and then it was selling, and it starts going down, and all the indicators are going. So everyone's jumping ship. They're short selling it, which I think that was the whole thing of that second wave, is that a lot of short sellers were on there, and the whales are like, well, that's a quick buck. And so they go boost the price back up. And then all the fanboys jump on and be like, ooh, it's going to the moon again.
Yeah.
We're going to see, like, it's going to go all year round.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, we're never going to see it start dropping again. And it has to
always
drop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
But I think it was just to kill out those initial short sellers out there.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense.
Because people want to buy the up and sell the down, and then sell more on the downs. And so if it goes up above, then they have to buy, and then they lost everything.
That makes sense.
Which is brutal.
Yeah. Very brutal. What's brutal is when you have high gains, and you're like, should I sell? Should I sell? And then it starts dropping. Say it drops 10%.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'll keep it in. It'll come back up 10%, and then it just do, and then you're like 20%, 40%, 50%. You're like, I can't sell now. I had all this.
Yeah.
Not
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I think the philosophy of, like, let's just say you go from like 10,000, I think it's going to go 20,000. If you bought at the low, that's only a 2x
Right.
that you're dealing with versus that, what, if you bought like Doge at 5 cents and now it's like $1.50,
Yeah.
that's what,
A lot.
30x, if I'm doing my math real quick, right?
Yeah.
But so you get
Yeah.
a 30x, and then you're like, oh, it's going to go up to $3.
Yeah.
That's only 2xing.
That's true.
And so, like, yeah, it's really nice to have that, but if you look at it in that aspect,
Yeah.
of being like, hey, you know what? I'll catch that next cycle or whatever. Like, I already got my 30x. Like,
Right.
be wise, be smart. Like, you can
That is a
sell,
very smart
and
way to
then
look at it.
You also have a little bit, like, if you want to go, like, you could sell portion, keep on selling as
Right.
it goes up. Like, when you're like, ooh, should I sell? Or like, ooh, it's 10%. Like, get your profits where you're happy, you know?
Yeah. No, because I think so oftentimes when you're thinking about it, you think of when it hits that 30x and you think it's going to go to, say, $3 or whatever, you're thinking, oh, that's a 60x.
Yeah.
Versus what you just said, oh, it's only a 2x from that point. Which that is the smart mentality to have, because that would save you so much.
Yeah.
That's actually very smart.
And then
I will
also,
implement that. Maybe I'll have 2 ships back there.
or 30 instead of 60. But
Bury the
also, it's like, for me, it's like, I don't want to hit the peaks and I don't want to hit the lows.
Yeah.
I want to hit near them.
Yeah.
You know, and be happy with what I got.
Yeah. And I think the main thing is just being, I mean, it's easier said than done. Like, oh, well, just be happy with where you sell, where you go in. I mean, no matter what, you're going to be kicking yourself one way or the other. Like, oh, I sold at this point and it went up another 50x.
Right. Well, I mean, just imagine Elon Musk last cycle bought Bitcoin at 35,000 or 30 to 35,000, somewhere around there, and it peaked at like 70,
65-ish, I think. Yeah.
65-ish. So he didn't even double his money on that. With, I mean, I bet he had a bunch of money on the side, but
Yeah.
with the company money.
Yeah, Tesla. Yeah.
Because it's hard to convince people to buy something, especially of how new it is.
Yeah.
And then go to your shareholders and be like, hey, I bought this.
Right.
Even though you're the CEO and you might be able to spend 10% of your money of whatever without asking.
Yeah. I would be curious because, I mean, he's the majority shareholder as far as...
The person that owns the most, but he doesn't
Yes.
own everything. He's
Right.
not 50 plus 1.
Yeah, I think he's like 10% of the company
Yeah.
or something. I'm curious how, in that position, because no one can basically vote him out because I mean, I guess if they got together, they could. But anyway, I'm just curious how much power he has as far as like autonomy before. Like, no, this is my vision. I'm gonna do it.
I mean, I think with how successful he has been, that
Yes.
I mean, seriously, he has like Starlink and all those other stuff shooting the rockets into space. Well, let me make my materials cheaper by building Cybertrucks for my. Well, look, the materials match. Rockets, Cybertruck.
Right.
So, like, I mean, looking at it in that light, I think there's a lot of, and also they're both working at top of the line technology too.
For sure.
In their little areas.
Yeah.
And so if you can say, hey, I have this material, I'll just give it to you guys and you guys can use it. They might have changed it a little bit.
Right. But the knowledge base is going back and forth. For sure.
Ooh, talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So I heard that the rockets, they'll be able to put out one every 3 days.
Wow, the Falcon Heavy?
No, the Starship.
Oh, the Starship, the giant
big
ones.
giant one.
Wow.
3 a day.
Wow.
Like
or one every 3 days.
Yeah, one every 3. Yeah.
They're both impressive. One's just a 3x.
Times 3, so 9x. But, and so, like, I was doing some research, and they're saying that his plan is to go to Mars. And if his plan is going to Mars, like, you're going to need thousands of those things going.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And so they, like, and then even, like, the robots, and then if batteries get good enough, like we were talking earlier, are they going to go to building a plane or a helicopter?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you can just, like, do Lego parts on a helicopter, stick it in there, and ship it up, and then you can bounce around, and that'd be a great tool.
I'm curious, because, like, he has a pretty ambitious plan. I think by, like, 2030, I think they want to have, like, people on Mars. And start building out the whole base or system or whatever it is up there. I'm curious, you never really hear about, like, are they going to partner with other companies that specialize in, like, base building material on Mars? You know, like structures and all that? Or are they going to, like, in-house all that? Because I feel like, I mean, you see all the rocket stuff and that's what they're working on, but I feel like when you think about it, oh, they better be working on, like, housing and homes and how to, you know, do all this other stuff.
So I saw a cool thing on that is that pretty much, you know how big those starships are?
Yeah.
They're just going to have the housing straight in there because it's already a sealed unit and everything. And so they can just modify them lightly, and then you have a huge living space, especially after you got all that rocket fuel out of there. You have this long, huge tube that you can just put together, like 2 together, or make a bunch of things, and then all you have to do is make like a little hub for it to attach to. And I mean, you're not going to go outside and have oxygen or anything like that.
Or will you?
With a tank.
Or will you?
Maybe. But
so,
I'm assuming we're not going to be able to just to walk outside without...
you can assume that.
Yeah. Unless we nuke...
The poles.
The poles, like Elon Musk was thinking. If we nuke the poles, then we can warm everything up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. That's like dark Dr. Evil, like it's genius.
Yeah.
But also you're just like, the odds of, like, there's so much things that could go wrong, but I mean, there's nothing growing on it to our knowledge, so it's not like it's going to hurt anything, except you might not be able to land on it. Like, we know we can land on it now, and it's survivable.
Right. I mean, there's rumors that Mars, like the footage, the pictures and everything on Mars is actually like, you know, we think of it as the red planet and like as red. And like every picture from NASA, you look at it, it looks like a desert, but like looks like a fire. You know, like a fire when there's fires outside, it's like orangish. And the rumor is that that's just like a filter that they put over it. And they've like deconstructed these pictures and everything, and it does not look like the filter red. It looks more like taken outside in our planet. And it, you know, bluish and
that's weird.
Yeah. And then they
So what happens to that person with the telescope that's looking through and be like, oh, it looks great?
well, see, I think the rocks and everything is probably red. Like you go to the Grand Canyon in that area,
okay,
and
yeah.
it's red rocks. It looks red.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a red hue in the sky, and like everything's not
okay.
dark, and that kind of image you think of Mars rover
Yeah.
pictures. And then supposedly the soil content of Mars is actually more fertile than our soil on Earth for like growing plants and everything. Which it's like, well, don't you have to have oxygen for that?
Yeah.
So
And water.
which there is water on Mars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's ice on Mars, for sure.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So there's the water or oxygen to some extent. So rumor is, or should I say conspiracy is, that you might not even need an oxygen tank on Mars. But they're not telling you that.
Okay.
Because a big thing, like, why would a lot of the elites, like, for example, Musk is trying to get there. You have Jeff Bezos with his spacefaring race trying to be interplanetarial and all that. Like, if it's just what you think of, like landing on the moon and like, that doesn't seem like a good life to live at all. Yeah, like it seems.
Hey, I bet everybody stepping on a scale would.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love it.
But that does it. If it's like that, I don't. Basically, they think that they have inside knowledge that the planet isn't as barren or as treacherous as what we all
Oh, I
think
thought
of
you were
it.
going to say Trump there. Baron Trump.
But yeah, sorry to get off on that tangent.
No, that's interesting. I haven't heard those before.
Yeah. But yeah, I was running across. I was online, and you were talking about millionaires earlier with Bitcoin and everything.
Oh, Bitcoin getting to like $1 million or $1.5 million, and Kathy Wood said that.
Yeah.
I'm like, shoot, if you're expecting that.
Right. And so my question is, I have a job opportunity for you that makes $1.2 million if you want it.
Every 4 years?
No, well, every year.
Okay.
It makes $1.2 million.
What is it?
It's in France.
Okay, you lost me on that one. Sorry.
Maybe it's in francs, and maybe it's 1.2 francs.
Oh, okay.
But
Isn't that German though?
I don't know. So it's it makes 1.2 million. It's actually a lighthouse keeper.
Okay, can I have friends over?
If they can get there, that's the problem. If they can get there, basically is what it is. So the annual salary is 1.2 million, and it is the Zoumon Lighthouse in France. Job involves basically you can do whatever you want as long as you make sure the light keeps going. You can go fishing. You can do all that kind of thing. But there's a catch. If you see this lighthouse, and we'll pop up pictures, but this lighthouse is this little lighthouse like in the middle of the ocean, and
it's on like a little island. It's the one with the big huge waves crashing over it.
So yeah, there's videos of basically it's like these waves that look like it's just gonna engulf the whole thing. It's just like, and then like you can zoom in on the picture. And there's like at the base of the lighthouse, the doors open, and there's a little guy down there, and there's like no joke, it looks like 100-foot wave just like breaking around it.
Oh.
And I was thinking, I was like, well, A, why does he have the door open? And B, the lighthouse obviously can withstand that because it's been there for years.
Yeah. They rebuild it every 6 months.
Yeah.
No life insurance. You have to finish the year.
But I was thinking, I'm surprised that it's hard to get people to do it for 1.2 million. And like, yeah, it would be terrifying. It would be scary, but
I mean, I might do it for a year.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do it for a year, keep the door shut. Like, it's obviously, this thing it's not like a brand new lighthouse that they build every year. Like you said, the thing has been standing for years, which the year that you decide to take it on would be the year it gets demolished. But, yeah.
I just have like a jetpack ready to go. Like the storm comes, and I'm like, I'm ready, guys. I'm ready.
They
Start
interviewed
hearing some creaking. I'm like, I'm gone.
they interviewed that lighthouse keeper, or
Okay.
the last one or whatever, and he was like, it was the most terrifying job he's ever had.
How long did he work there?
It didn't say, but probably a year, probably 6 months. He's probably under contract. If you stay a year, you get 1.2, but if you are short, then you get nothing. But yeah, they're like, it's great because you're left alone. You don't have to be bothered. You can do whatever you want, which now maybe with Starlink or something, it wouldn't be as bad.
Right.
But
You're like, no, I quit. I'm big, huge wave. You're just like throwing.
so supposedly, I guess that guy got rescued one time, like by helicopter. And I was thinking, that seems more dangerous because he got rescued when it was a massive storm, the waves, which seems more dangerous than just staying indoors and like letting the waves just crash around it. But I don't know.
Yeah, unless it was
wasn't there.
falling apart.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, you think you would have like a black box that you can just close.
No. Like one of those, the sailing or the ship, life raft, like the newer day life raft. That's like basically like a barrel.
Huh.
You're inside of a barrel. Yeah, the new life rafts.
Those are kind of cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are on like cargo ships and stuff,
Okay.
and they're almost like they're unsinkable. Basically, they're like hatch door shut, and
Right.
almost like a submarine that never
Until,
submerges.
Yemen pirate comes and goes pop.
Yeah, right. Puts a explosive on the door and blows
Right.
it. But anyway, yeah.
If you scallywags don't like and subscribe, then I'll send my man after you. Go get him.
Interesting story. So I have a job opportunity for you that pays well.
Well, I mean, that's definitely. Is it taxed?
It's in France, so.
Do I have to
probably.
be able to speak French? Because that might be like the barrier. Like, it's
Well,
not
no.
worth the 20 years to
Yeah,
learn.
you wouldn't have to speak French because you're all alone. All you have to do is keep the light on.
I wonder how many applicants they actually get.
It sounded like not many. Well, they probably should show them the picture. Like I said, they gave him. Oh, I think I forgot this part. They gave the lighthouse keeper a picture of the storm, and it was the picture where he had the door open, looking. I wish I could show you right now because it is crazy. Like on the normal picture, you can't even see him. The guy's an ant, basically, and it's just like this wall of water.
Wow.
Crazy. We spent way too long talking about a lighthouse keeper. But
They might have one more applicant.
I'm thinking about it. Maybe we should do it for
Right.
a year. We could build our podcast in the lighthouse. We could be at the
There we
top.
go.
We could be growing conspiracy crypto pirates
Yeah, we would.
and be making 1.2.
Can I have it up front?
I'd ask if they could just pay me in like cryptocurrency, and then by the
Right.
time you get out, you're like, "Ah, it's 10 million. It was worth the year.
Yeah, have it up front and then also put a life insurance policy on you before you go.
Oh
You
man.
want in $1 million life insurance policy? You know.
So we were talking about NASA, right?
Okay, yeah.
And
Well, at least ships going up.
yeah. So at NASA, I'm not sure which headquarters. I think there's two headquarters, one in Houston and I think one in Florida.
Okay.
One of those, they have this back parking lot that is, and nobody knows why, it's like full of old cars from the 70s. And the rumor is that basically they're getting ready for a EMP strike or something like that, because it's all old enough equipment that doesn't have computers and everything. And they have like every type of vehicle, from like police type cars to ambulance type cars to like old news, like station wagons that say like news on it, to semi trucks and all that. They're ready.
Ready to go back to the 50s.
Yeah, you would think, I mean, they're old cars, and it's like, you would think that they would just take those to the dump and drop them off. I mean, they're at that age that they're worthless, you would think.
Right.
So the rumor is...
Or classics.
Yeah, or classics. But that's kind of another thing, is like they don't look nice. They're not like all polished and like beautiful condition. Like some of the seats are a little bit ripped and stuff like that. But so the rumor is, are they preparing for a potential EMP blast? And then like, why would NASA be doing that? Like, is it NASA just for the space? Or is there something else behind NASA?
Or maybe we're going to a planet that has naturally occurring EMP strikes.
Yeah.
Just naturally. And so we got to
Yeah, I
get
mean,
rockets up there that
yeah.
driving around in our 50s cars.
Well, I mean, our planet has EMP strikes naturally from the sun.
Maybe we're going closer to the sun.
Yeah, because we have solar flares, is what it is. Like the last one was the Carrington event. Yeah.
That's where all the space junk is coming from. NASA's junkyard of old cars.
Why do you think they're so excited with SpaceX? Because he figured out how to launch a car into space, and they're like, yes, we can get rid of our collection.
We can get rid of all our evidence of all our crimes we've done in the past.
Or maybe because it's part of the government, it's so bureaucratic that they just can't get rid of their old junk. So in the back lot. I mean, there's several ways. I feel like, they would get rid of it. I mean, NASA organization, like, they're on the cutting edge. You wouldn't think they'd keep...
They probably still use Windows XP.
They probably do. That's why they always say, your phone is more powerful than the...
They said that about the Game Boy.
Yeah. The Game Boy, they're probably still using the Game Boy. That's why spaceships are so expensive, is it's hard to get that old technology to... They're overpaying on eBay. Wow.
Oh, we digress.
I know.
Okay, so
yes.
Talking about cars.
Yes.
So, interesting news is coming about cars. Like, there's a lot of new battery technology that's coming out. Like the solid state batteries that a bunch of the Japanese are going into. There's sodium ion batteries that are coming out that are supposedly like 4 times lighter,
Wow.
Or not lighter, but it's 4 times more energy density in the battery, and so they can make it lighter. Like they're talking like lithium is like the 3rd element, so it's a really light element, and then sodium is like the 6th element, so it's really close to that. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and I would think sodium would be a lot easier to get than lithium.
Yeah, actually, sodium might have been the 6th lightest, or the 6th most common element.
Yeah. Have you gone to the salt flats? If that was gold, I'd be out there right now.
Right.
Now, that would be amazing. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer if it's possible. I'm curious why no other company, or why they haven't been using sodium technology. I mean,
it's just been recently discovered. It's still like in 2022, it was behind lithium still. But I think now they're starting to really catch up, and we might see it in 2025, is what people were saying.
Well, that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I was thinking about it. I'm surprised that sodium, like, even if it was behind lithium, I'm surprised they didn't still have like sodium batteries for other things. Like, for example, like a giant power bank.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, it might not be a good ratio for the phone yet or for a car, but
Yeah.
like if size didn't matter type of deal, huge
Yeah.
power bank that could be like a fraction of the cost and still be useful.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking it's going to be like 4 times cheaper
I believe it.
to build the batteries, which
Yeah.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like if it's 4 times cheaper to build a battery, like you're talking, that's why Elon Musk might be coming out with a $25,000 car. And supposedly they have figured out a way to make it charge quicker.
Oh, wow.
And so it's going to be a quicker charge, better density of energy in the battery.
Does it have the same battery degradation as lithium, do you know?
In the lab, yes, they haven't tested it out in the real world.
Yeah.
So, like, if it's elements like 120 degrees and then you're
Yeah.
going down to negative 80 degrees,
Yeah.
like, how is that going to handle on the battery?
Right.
I don't know.
That's interesting. That is really cool. I guess the weather does play a massive role in batteries. Because I was thinking, even if they didn't use it for the cars, do it for your power banks that you guys are doing. But I mean, you still run in the same weather issues with power banks. I mean, you have extreme cold or extreme heat, so that makes sense. But that would be amazing if they could do that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much technology it takes to.
Well, I mean, if it's the
manufacture.
same process, that'd be really cool. It just, you roll in maybe different materials or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be different than just sprinkling salt
but
or
you
sprinkling.
remember when they came out with the Cybertruck and they were like the 4680 cells and it was
Yeah.
like the next new thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
going to use cobalt and it was like, oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Like the 1,000,000-mile battery.
Yeah, yeah,
And then in 2 years it gets like, when it comes out, 2020, well, late 2023, so practically 2024.
yeah,
And then you roll out the next year with a sodium battery.
yeah,
Like that's going to be, like for me, electric vehicle, I personally would, like the range I'd want it to go is 800. Like, yeah, your 200 to 300 mile range for the people living in the city, like
Yeah.
you're going small distances and that's your normal.
Yeah.
For me, I go long distances, I travel, I want to go from coast to coast and,
Yeah.
so you're moving back and forth all the time and you're driving and it's just like, if I had self-driving and I only had a 300-mile range car, it'd be like,
yeah, yeah. You would still have to wake up, plug it
Yeah.
in somewhere, and do it versus just.
And so when the
having to
Cybertruck
go.
came out with 500-mile range, I was like, yes, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
that's like not quite where I want,
Yeah, but it's.
but it
getting
was
there.
a whole lot better. Yeah, it was getting there. And
Right.
so I was like, yes, we're finally almost getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut it in half pretty much.
Yeah,
And then they let you have an extra battery pack.
for 13 or 16 grand more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I loved the idea though.
Yeah.
Like having that, if I could have that as an ability, and then you drop the price like a quarter for the sodium batteries.
Yeah.
Now you're talking what, $3,000 to $4,000,
For an extended battery pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that to me is like okay. Now it's like, and then you had a 500-mile range car, and then you added another like 500 or 1,000, or say it was 300, you added
Yeah.
two more. You have about 900-mile range. And then now you can haul something, so you cut that in 3, so it's like 300 miles.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't sound that bad.
No, not at all. And I feel like that's the thing for me that is the most disappointing with the Cybertruck is it, when towing, it basically cuts that 320-mile range to like 90,
Yeah.
which that's not enough, like, period. Like, yes, how often are you going to tow? Not often, but when you do, you want it. And then B, how often are you towing at like when they did the test, it was like max capacity, like 14,000 pounds or 12 or whatever the max pack out is.
And then when they sell you the dream too, it's like, oh, you could work out of it, you can live out of it type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, like I might be able to plug some stuff in, but if I'm driving 100 miles to the location and 100 miles back, or like 50 now, you're really cutting that, and then you want to kind of keep it at the 20% to 80% range on the charge, and now that reduces everything, and now it just like downs everything.
Yeah, and then you're constantly worried where you have to get to that charging station versus like, oh, gas station right here, pulling off. Fill up.
Which over time,
it will get better.
Less and less and less, but hopefully the battery technology is going to get better and better where it's like, okay, what's the big deal about adding another 500 miles range to the vehicle?
Right.
So I'm like, we're close, but we're just not quite there. And what a lot of companies, so a lot of companies are going to the hybrids. So you know how you have your regular ICE motor or gas motor?
Yeah, for like the power and the torque.
Or the gas engine and the electric motor. I always get those mixed up. But
understandably.
Yeah. So
for Padawan. Not for a captain, but
the things I deal with. But man, you made me lose my focus.
That was the point.
So the hybrids.
Yeah.
So what they're thinking about doing, instead of having your normal gas motor and switching to the electric, and as an additive, they've reversed that and put in like 150 mile range battery, and then they put in a small little, more like a generator type of a thing.
Ooh.
And so like over in Europe, like BMW, they have like scooters that are like 800 cc's that get really good gas mileage and all that.
Yeah.
And they have put that into
like a car.
Yeah. Like I think it was the i3 that they put it into, and the i8.
Okay.
But over in America, to me, an EV standard and get the EV credits, you have to dumb all that down. And so there's ways of jailbreaking them. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Just hopefully it's not in the self-driving side of things, and you jailbreak it, and then it bricks it, and then you turn into a brick.
Me jailbreaking, it's like, nope, I'm going.
Well, that's crazy. Well, that seems like a really smart idea. As far as the generator, I'm curious how much power a generator type thing can. I mean, obviously it can produce enough power to keep it going.
Well, they're talking about that like 150 mile range being extended to like 500 miles.
Wow.
With that. And I mean, if you're starting out on a long trip and you just have that generator just constantly going, just feeding a little bit, then you're not taking as much. And then when you need the pep, you can get the pep, and then when you're going downhill, you can generate some of that back.
Yeah, because the electric motor, I mean, as far as peppiness and torque, is far superior. So if you can, why not keep that the electric motor running when you can, or all the time? I'm curious, so when it runs, how you said it extends it to 500 miles of range, can you fill that generator up with gas and get another 500 miles? Or is it like you go 500 miles, you fill it up with gas, and you have to plug it in?
I did not research that far on that. Right. We might as well just leave now.
Might as well. Where's the... No, that's awesome.
So
that seems very promising.
Also another thing.
Yeah.
So, you know Mazda? They were really big into the rotary engines.
Yeah.
They are coming out with a new rotary engine.
I heard rumors about that.
And
know nothing about it.
So, and it's going to be more efficient. Okay. So they really worked on making it really efficient. And they're not even going to put it to the drive shaft. It's going to go straight into the electric motors or into the battery to charge it up. So they're going that concept, but they're using a rotary engine on it, which I thought was like, oh. And then there's rumors of having another rotary engine coming out with it, with the RX
7.
9, I think, because we
Okay.
had the RX-7, then the RX-8.
Okay. I thought they
And
were.
then
Oh, sorry.
the RX-9. Well, this is what these people were
Yeah.
saying. It might be, they might really call it the RX-7 or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the progression of things, we'll just use RX-9.
That makes
And
sense.
they're going to pretty much have like a souped up rotary engine in it, mixed in with the electric. And so they're probably going to use both, but that's just rumor at
Wow.
this point.
So I'm curious why they would use a rotary engine for the generator to charge the battery. Mm-hmm. Because I thought the whole point with the rotary engine was like it was like low in torque. Mm-hmm. And like, why would you need that for just generating power?
Low in torque
Yeah.
to crank the generators?
Yeah, but do you need it though? Do you need a lot of torque to turn in a generator? I'm just thinking like, okay, this motor generator is turning this thing that generates electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really need a lot of torque to do that?
The more torque you have, probably the more electricity that you can have. Just like
Maybe.
a diesel, the more torque you have, the more you can haul.
True.
And so the more torque you have, probably the more electricity you can generate in that one cycle.
Interesting. Because, yeah, I was listening to somebody this last week, and they were talking about electric cars and everything. And they were saying that they actually think that in the next 10 years, there won't be any electric cars.
Oh.
That he thinks basically the electric cars are a phase or like a middle ground, and it's going to be all hydrogen cars after that.
Okay, interesting.
And
I've heard Toyota has some cool technology with hydrogen. Like I hear they have cells of hydrogen, solid hydrogen. So they figured
Yeah.
out how to make hydrogen into a solid state.
yeah,
And then that can be open to the air or whatever,
Yeah.
their little capsule. And then they put it in, and then they figure out how to extract that into a gas
Wow.
state and then put it in.
that's crazy. Because, yeah, this guy was saying that basically they're going to use this technology that actually the U.S. Navy uses some of it. So, like,
Oh, cool.
we have, like the nuclear reactor carriers and all that, but we also have ships that run on, like, hydrogen
Okay.
that they never have to refill, like, ever. Because
I guess it's such a common element.
they can get it from the seawater or, like, the hydrogen. They basically can convert it from the water that they're sliding in and, like, create the juice that it needs, which was awesome with, like, the nuclear carriers and stuff, because they didn't have to, like, refill or put a new uranium thing for, like, once every 12 years,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but that's awesome. Like, you see these massive city basically floating, and you're like, man, how many gallons of gas is that guzzling to move it any distance? And it's like, yeah, we only fill it up once every 12 years. It's like, why aren't we doing this everywhere?
Right. So I hear China's really working on nuclear batteries.
Okay.
And so we already have been using that technology. And we've been using it in pacemakers,
Nuclear
batteries.
Okay.
That they've put somewhere in,
Okay.
or I guess
That's
around your heart.
exactly where I would want anything
Right?
nuclear. Right close to the chest. I'll probably hit the microphone.
But
Okay.
yeah, so it's like, it's not new technology. We've been using it for a long time, I guess. But I mean, what has enough power to fit inside your body, into your heart, pretty much, to zap your heart every time it kind of stops?
That's true. But what I think is more impressive to me is like I'm just learning this for the first time right now, like nuclear batteries. Mm-hmm. And usually technology starts huge and then eventually gets smaller. And then it's like I'm learning about it now, and it's already the size. I'm like,
And we've been using it for a long time.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's cost effectiveness, you know.
Yeah.
It's probably cost you $10,000 or more for one of those, and you're not really going to stick that into your little remote control goat cart that you give your 5-year-old, you know.
Wow. If cryptos go up, that's I might be able to
I
buy it.
have the red button. Don't test me or I'll blow it up.
Hiroshima, right here. Man. But speaking of aircraft carriers, ships and stuff,
Yeah.
there was this guy who was comparing it because you think of like, you know, the world's in chaos right now. And you're thinking like, okay, what global powers have what ships and whatnot. And he was comparing, so if I can find my note on it to get all the information perfectly correct. I got way too many notes. All right. So, these ships, there are two kinds of like aircraft carriers, right?
Okay.
There's the jump carrier, and then there is the super carriers.
Okay. What's the difference between them?
So, a jump carrier is a normal aircraft carrier. A jump carrier is, sorry.
The jump is normal.
Yes.
The super is super.
So a super carrier is basically has the power of seven times as big as a normal one.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. I don't know what other words to use.
So a super carrier is 7 times the combat capabilities as a jump carrier. 24 jump carriers globally. So there's 24
Okay. Normal aircraft
carriers, you're right? America, British, Japanese, and China. China has 2 jump carriers.
Okay.
So the normal kind. One of them originally was a casino that they have now converted. The other one was modeled off of the casino that they have now converted. So they've got 2 aircraft carriers.
At least they have enough room for the crew.
At least the crew is always entertained.
But never have any money.
But they have military surplus. The house never loses. So, America has, out of those 24 jump carriers,
Okay.
America has, I believe, 12.
So they have half.
Yes. So, the super carriers, there's 12 super carriers in the world.
Okay.
America has all of them.
So we had half of the normal aircraft carriers around the world. Mm-hmm. And then we 7x'd it
Yeah.
with
The super
the
carriers.
super carriers.
Yes. And then, so China's current trajectory, because they're building their naval fleet, on their current trajectory to be able to match us, if we do nothing for the next remainder of the years, they should be able to match our naval fleet by the year 2170.
2170. So another 150 years.
Yes. If we do nothing.
I mean, it only took us how long to build it?
Probably since World War II. Really?
Right? So like 40 years, 50, 100 years?
Yeah, and probably all the ships from World War II are gone. I mean, we don't use World War II ships anymore.
I mean, I remember growing up watching some like videos, and the decks used to be made out of wood.
Yeah, that shocked me originally.
I was like, that is crazy. And do you know why they changed
No.
their decks?
Why?
Because of the kamikazes. It would go and land and the decks would burn up.
Oh, so it would catch fire.
Yeah, and so they made them metal or
Concrete or asphalt now, aren't they?
What?
Don't they have asphalt?
On the ship?
Yeah. I thought. I mean,
I have no clue. That's
something
that'd be new for me. But
There's a comment down below that says, "You idiot! Asphalt on a ship."
I don't know who made him the captain.
Hey, I have a ship and it's made out of wood.
And cloth. as the fuel.
Hey. I'm very green here. I only use...
Or it was green until you chopped it down.
All right. So you ready for a crazy story?
Yes.
Okay. So forgive me for looking at my notes, but Pan Am Airlines flight DC-4. Have you heard of it?
Okay, I would definitely be looking at my notes for that.
Right. It took off in 1955.
Okay.
Okay. And it landed 37 years later.
What do they use for fuel?
Nuclear. Just teasing. So it took off in 1955, landed in 1992.
Okay.
It had 57 passengers on board. It took off from Miami.
And they're all babies when it landed?
No, they would be old. It would go the other way.
Oh, my bad.
From Miami to, I believe it was New York. Or sorry, New York to Miami.
Okay.
Dispatch, they sent out a search party in 1955, because obviously it doesn't take that long to fly from New York to Miami. Search and rescue, couldn't find the plane, so they figured it probably just crashed somewhere. No prior information. Crew claims to be, so when they landed in 1992, which is crazy, like, it wasn't that long ago that they landed. Crew, was like, I'm on flight, blah, blah. They're just doing their normal thing. The crew thinks nothing's changed. To them, it was a couple-hour flight or whatever. And the tower, everybody that saw the plane land thought, oh, that's weird that this really old plane is landing. We don't hardly ever see these types of planes anymore landing. The crew was getting all these questions. A bunch of people are like running out to the plane to like check it out because nothing really added up. The pilot, the crew, they got freaked out what was going on, and they took off again. Never to be seen again.
That seems like a big prank to me.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
But
I think the bigger prank would be is if you go and you disappear and then you have your kids who go on a plane and they come and land and be like, this is your stories, and like raise them for the story.
A 37-year prank? That's pretty impressive. No, so like, okay, the conspiracy angle of it is, did they actually fly through a wormhole, or a black hole, or whatever?
Know where that wormhole was.
Yeah, and I don't know, because like the crew, when they landed, they didn't think anything changed or happened. They thought it was a normal flight.
Yeah.
They were radioing the tower like normal, doing all its thing. But then I think what's weird too is, if they did pass through a wormhole or whatever, that seems like 1 in a billion chance of happening the first time. But then if you like get freaked out, take off again, and you pass through the wormhole again, then
37 years you said? Mm-hmm. So we have, it's coming up close. We're probably 5 years out.
That's true.
Back to New York. Hello, this is whatever
Maybe I should start
coming in approach for JFK.
Maybe I should start shopping for a Pan Am DC-4. Like, what? Why are you getting all this costumes and everything? Don't worry about it. No, that's
an interesting story.
Yeah. Very interesting, because like.
So what's up with Miami right now? Like, story of that Miami pops up. And we have the aliens in Miami pop up. Oh, sorry, the misbehaved teenagers.
You know what's close to Miami?
Oh, the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. Yep. And you either have weird force fields out in the ocean out there, or
I
pyramids,
wonder if the Miami airport has as many conspiracies around it that are more hushed than the Denver airport.
maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
Because I know this airport that it landed in, it wasn't the main like Miami airport. It was like a smaller field.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Which then I'm thinking what you said, like a prank or whatever. Could it be a prank? An old plane, so they're cheaper to buy and get.
They're expensive to maintain, though.
Yeah, it seems like an elaborate prank though to pull. I mean,
He's like, I'm in bigger trouble than I thought on this prank. I'm just taking off.
I mean, if you had it and you're like, hey, that'd be hilarious, because you obviously know the story that there was a plane like this that crashed.
Right, yeah.
And then you could be landing and you could be like, oh, this is the Pan Am flight, blah, blah, blah. And then before they get out there and start really questioning you, and take off, and nobody questions you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
we
just
solved
have a
it.
hard time seeing that plane disappear again. Like, they were like, hey, just follow that one. You
Yeah,
know?
at that point in 92, you'd think they would like be able to follow it
Right.
or track
You
it.
have a jet being like, oh, I'm going. Should I shoot it down, boss? No, not clear for that. Oh, come on.
Target practice.
All right, so you want
yes.
to know a little random conspiracy
Yes.
that just recently happened?
Ooh, a new one, yeah.
Yes. So, you know Nikki Haley, running
Yes.
for Republican nomination for president.
Yes.
When Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out,
Okay.
she said that there's only 2 people left in the race.
Yes, her and Trump.
But you also had Ron DeSantis. And then in the Iowa caucus, you had Nikki Haley came in third. So it's Trump, Ron DeSantis, then Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley comes out as an arrogant person and says, oh, I won,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And then she said, then Vivek dropped out after that. And then she then goes ahead and says that there's only 2 more people in the race. Rumor is that she wasn't talking that it was her and Trump. It was her and DeSantis that was in the race. And then after DeSantis dropped out, now it's just her left. So do you think in her mind that she won the Republican nomination at this point? Which would be a very interesting thought on the whole thing.
Yeah, or did she just write her speech as like pre-wrote it, and like she thought she was gonna get second, and then she's like giving
You
her.
have like 5 different speech writers writing for you with all those different
Yeah, but
scenarios. You can just type in a little something
You
real quick.
can, but did she?
Yeah. I mean, the conspiracy is that she pretty much already knows Trump is going to get indicted and won't be able to run.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise
so-
me if that's what she's thinking too.
Yeah. And so
Which is why she's still hanging around in the race.
Yeah. So if that was the case, then it would be her and DeSantis. And then DeSantis drops out. And now it's just her in her mind.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's funny that I don't understand is when they're talking about like Trump being indicted, he can still run even if he's indicted.
You can't run with certain criminal backgrounds. So if you like say January 6th is considered treason, you cannot, or you take bribery. We won't mention any of the other past presidents that have taken briberies.
Right.
That have thrown America down into the gutters, but both Republican and Democrat, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter in my mind.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will definitely tell.
I thought that was just an interesting thought.
And it's what's kind of interesting is we'll find out pretty soon, like the validity of it and how close it is to the truth. So church bells.
Back on the bells. Back on the churches, steeples, towers.
So,
did it make the electricity clean by ringing the bells?
Maybe. So, you know how a lot of time individuals think of like churches as a place of healing, and like kind of like older days.
Yeah.
And there's been a theory that kind of going back to residencies, like sound waves, frequencies, they actually do have physical impact on people. So different frequencies do. Yeah. And so it's rumored that especially like the old churches, the frequencies that these bells would ring actually might have had healing properties to them, which would kind of fill in details of the story of like people going to the church and like trying to be healed and so forth. What is interesting is Nazi Germany, Hitler had like all the church bells taken, and so the question is, the moral of the story is they were taking because they wanted to be used for the war effort, like the metal of them, melt them down and everything. But they were never melted down for that purpose. And there's like, fields of bells or whatever. And then it's like, okay, because we know Hitler was like in the occult and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So like, did he know, or did he think that these church bells did have healing properties and he wanted to keep that away from these people? Or did he think that they had this extra power or whatever and wanted to use them for his own purposes somehow?
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't
know.
It's very weird because it's like, why would you take a church bell out but to recycle it? Like for that part makes sense for the metals, but they never use the metals.
Yeah.
And
that almost seems like a last-ditch effort. Like if you're stealing raw materials from existing buildings and stuff like that on a war effort, was that kind of towards the end, or was that more towards the beginning that he was taking the bells?
That I don't know for sure. And one other interesting detail is the older bells, like in the church, have been found to have different frequencies than the newer ones, and to be like better in healing and all that.
Okay. So that takes me down a whole nother rabbit trail of so the frequency that we listen to music today, I think, is like what is it, like the 48 or 40 something?
Yeah, I think I've heard something like that.
Yeah. And classical music and frequency is around 32 hertz, and we can record in that and play it in that hertz, but we don't. We pretty much, it's like right in that in-between point that we play it at, and so it's always kind of broken down.
Okay.
So we might, like, it might be like 48 and 32, and in the middle is 40.
Okay.
And naturally, 32 and 48 are natural. And so a guy did a test, and maybe in Iowa or Nebraska somewhere, he had a farm, and he played classical music on loudspeakers.
Okay.
To the farm.
To his crops?
Yeah. And they grew to like 15 feet tall.
Wow.
And supposedly they're massive.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other?
AC/DC? Hell's Bells?
And the plants were like 2 foot flat. But I thought that was an interesting, like, just the frequency that we play our music at is like almost jarring to our body. Or even if we just had the same music, but we just changed the frequency hertz that it is played at,
Interesting.
it would be much better for us.
Interesting. So why don't we just change the frequency to whatever that is and make music in that?
If you look at everything kind of going on, if you look at something that is normally good for you, or something that is naturally destructive to you,
Yeah.
and then look at the people that are picking what one, and see what one that you want to follow. Like, what one is destroying nature more than the other one, you know? And so, are we having more fires? Are we having less fires? Are we, is the air more polluted or less polluted? You know?
Yeah.
If you ask these different questions and then you take a step back and look at it, you're like, oh, that's harmful to the environment, harmful to us as humans, harmful to the animals, then you can see, I would say, then that's more demonic than not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does make sense.
Like and subscribe if you want to see more gorgeous locks like these.
Huh. Which is funny because that's a perfect transition into the other topic I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Which was, have you seen the movie? It's on Netflix that Obama made. It's called Leave the World Behind.
Have you?
No, not yet.
Okay. I kind of want to watch it.
With all the interest that's been going around on the internet, I'm kind of curious now.
I'm just wondering what kind of insights he has.
Yeah.
I wonder why if that's why his chef died.
Right? But this is what I thought was interesting. So there was a guy that he's a professional like videographer type person. He like does commercials like for companies. He'll like he makes trailers. That's what it was. He makes trailers. And he has this special software that helps him do it quicker and everything. And he's been doing this for like 15, 20 years.
Okay.
And he said that this movie, he like put it in his thing. I don't think he was commissioned to do it. I think he just did it because he was curious.
Yeah.
He did it, and this movie has way more audio tracks than any movie he's ever seen before. And on those audio tracks, because you know how like on a editing software there's audio tracks, there is throughout the entire movie this low frequency sound throughout the entire movie that's like virtually imperceptible to your ear unless you like really crank it up and you like just listen perfectly. So it was like, does this frequency make, because like frequencies have effect on you, does it
make you more uptight and so you feel more suspense in the movie?
But he was saying he's never seen that. He's done horror movies. He's done all these other movies that if it did the makes you feel differently, they would have utilized it. He said he's never seen this in any movie before.
Interesting. Now I kind of don't want to watch it. I mean, so you have Obama.
Yeah.
He comes out with a movie about pretty much
the end of the world type of.
And isn't that through hacking? Like they hack the grids and then everything kind of goes down?
I think so. I know the grids go down and like electricity is scarce and basically society crumbles.
Yeah.
And I think it's from hacking or a solar
flare. It might have been a solar flare on the movie.
Okay.
But one of the things that the WEF has talked about with Klaus Schwab is a computer hack that takes down the entire grid. Or an EMP, you know.
Yeah, like, EMP blast or.
Yeah, there's so many different ways, and we're so dependent on everything.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, if we just take a step back and be like, we have this really great technology, but it can be taken like that from us.
It can be. Well, and then that's why, like, I think so often, like, when we talk about, like, ancient times, and, like, you think of ancient times as basically, like, Stone Age, and then like medieval and then where we are today, and then it's like, well, what if long time ago they actually had technology of some kind, an EMP, solar flare, something basically hit it, just like if it hit us today, we'd be sunk. We'd almost be put back in the Ages. Like, think of like all our important information is on discs or that.
Well, I think where it really come down to is that you would have a few people, you would have your preppers that would have some basic necessities and all that kind of stuff, and then you would have your people, governmentals, people that have been preparing this for decades, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like, they have tunnels way down underneath, and they have stuff already built and prepared and made, so once that does happen, then they can roll out again, and they're fine. And so, like, at that point, and then you're probably going to lose millions of people, hundreds of millions of people probably, if we had a worldwide EMP strike.
For sure.
And that's just from starvation, diseases, thirst, all that. Because
grocery stores are going to be in 3 days, basically. No more grocery stores.
Yeah. And so, with all that said, you're just like, okay, so you're going to have a lot of people die. You're going to have the governments pretty much picking who lives and who doesn't. And just to be able to rebuild their nation, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah. That is interesting. But why would they want to rebuild when they've already have it built?
Well, if you have an EMP, all your farm equipment, all your cars, everything that you have, you're going to have to rebuild it and redesign it.
But my question is, did they set off the EMP, or was it a natural disaster EMP?
Either one. Like, Russia sends an EMP over, and then we send an EMP over, or a natural one happens. Like, if it's just within a small little location, then everything would kind of go as normal, except for those people in that small little location.
Right.
And so we have, unless it hit like one of the huge manufacturing spots. But we have lots of different manufacturing spots. Like, you have China, you have, which does a lot of small stuff, but they're getting more into some of the bigger stuff, some vehicles. You have Japan that does vehicles.
Yeah.
You have, I think there's a Ford plant in Thailand. You have Ford plants all over.
Too.
India probably has a couple. You have Europe. So they're all in different areas. It's just going to be supply and demand at that point, like we had during the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of supply and demand issues that happened where we had these vehicles already built and you couldn't even get a chip for it.
Right. It was ridiculous. You could see, I think, the Ford fleet of vehicles from space. It was so huge. But another thing that is very interesting is, you know how like in the 80s, like lead paint was banned or whatever? And I was like, oh, basically the excuse was for people like eating the lead, or
it's bad
kids.
for your health.
Yeah. But so lead paint, it's been found that EMF signals, so like radio signals, can't get through lead paint.
Okay.
So the conspiracy is, did they outlaw that because they don't want people covering, basically Faraday caging their house from these radio frequencies that maybe they're beaming in to control people. So is that the real reason why they kind of outlawed lead paint?
Yeah, that might be. Because, I mean, if you had a Faraday cage on every house, I mean, you have windows and all that.
Yeah. And I mean, I doubt it's, like, Faraday cage safe, but, like, if it's as, I don't know, say, like, you go into buildings with your cell phone and it's like, I lost coverage. I was like, why did I lose coverage? And it's not like the building is, like, airtight, you know, screens everywhere, like, Faraday cage screens on everything. It's just
I wonder if phones would be as big as they are today if that was the case.
Everything was lead? Yeah, that's a good question.
Because, I mean, if you couldn't use it in your house, then you'd be like, so I gotta go outside and then...
Landline.
Right? Call my landline.
Yeah. Which hey, the cell phone companies would be making double because you would need a cell phone for outside of the house, and then you need a landline. Now people are dropping landlines, so they'll probably implement lead paint again.
But I mean, seriously, we dropped our landlines for internet, and
Yeah.
we're paying like 5 times as much for it.
Yep.
You know, so I don't think the phone companies are that upset. I think they just redirected, and then like, oh, instead of having like a landline that you get a little bit of data, we're just building the data.
Yeah. A giant tub
Yeah.
of data. Yeah. No, I thought that was an interesting perspective. Might not be the case, but maybe it
Yeah.
is. Because I mean, like, how often are you
Eating
eating
lead
paint? I mean, it's like, oh, babies, but like, I mean,
Cyan is my favorite flavor.
man. So, the theory is that the CIA knows where the Ark of the Covenant is.
Okay.
And so there's a public record website that you can go to. I haven't gone to it yet, but I'm like curious now to go to it. I saw a video on it. And there's like a public record website that's like talking about, it doesn't say Ark of the Covenant, but
Yeah.
it's this, the way they describe it is like, okay, it's a box size of this, like you narrow it down, you read the Bible, and you're like, okay, it all matches up, Ark of the Covenant. And then at the end of the document, there's like signatures and stuff like that have like signed off on it, like, oh, do this. And there's like next to the signature, there's like a little drawing, and it looks like a little cherub thing. And on this document, it's like, do not open, only open at specific time, has to be the right people to open it. And it said, what was it? Like basically, beware, don't touch it type of thing.
Okay.
Like there's this whole like instruction set, and it's like you're matching it up with the Bible. And
Is it Hebrew?
yeah, you had to get one of the 12 tribes to come. No. But it was very like explicit and informative, and it was like, this is public records, like you can look it up.
Weird.
Yeah. And then it's like, where is it?
Antarctica.
Right? That makes sense.
Greek Orthodox and the Pope conspired against the
Right?
Muslims to take it to Antarctica.
That's crazy. I was looking to see what other notes I had on it. Reference to container with unique shape. The contents is not to be opened until the correct time is deemed.
Who's to deem that?
Right? Yeah,
Crazy.
that is very crazy. But, yeah. Do you have anything else for me?
I do, but it's going to be a long one. So we
I
might
got
wanna-
time.
You got time?
It's up to you.
Okay. So this is more on cryptos and Bitcoin and finances.
Good. Good. I haven't gotten my allotment for the week.
Okay. So first one is on Bitcoin.
Okay.
Did you know Bitcoin is changing the lives of people over in Africa?
No.
No. So what has been happening is that there's been these groups of miners that are like, we need a good sustainable source of energy. And so they go over to small little tribes in rural areas that have abundance of natural water flowing.
Okay.
They go over there, build a hydro plant, and then they sell or share the electricity with the locals, and then the excess of that, then they mine Bitcoin. And so now they're providing Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, they're providing energy, and like the people that were like, they're interviewing, they're like, yeah, it's changed my life. Like, it used to take us like a month to do this task, and now it takes us like 2 days.
Wow.
You know, with the electricity and motors and all that, it's like you're going from pounding to having an electric motor just plow through everything real quick, and all you're doing is feeding the equipment now. And it's like, it's changed our lives where we're actually able to focus on other things than just surviving.
That's awesome. So, and basically the reward for the people that came in and built it for them, or
they get the excess energy.
They get the excess energy to mine their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, that's like, it helps everybody.
Yeah.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's go build more. Not for me, of course. It's for the children. Was that the long story? That was short.
No.
Oh.
No.
I was like, well, that was exciting. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was just a small little segment. Okay. So bricks. So I was just listening to Mark Moss. I really like listening to his stuff. I know you fall asleep to his stuff, but I think his stuff is really informative. But so he was talking about the different.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
But so he was talking about like the different, like our system, the monetary system, where all the money's going, and kind of it's the end of the phase for fiat money.
Right.
And so he was saying we're kind of coming to the end of fiat money. We got the BRICS nations that are going back to the gold standard. And he was like, that, if we go back to the gold standard, that's going back. We are devolving instead of evolving, if that makes sense. So we're going back to the gold standard. That'd be a devolving, because there's different, like if you have a brick of gold and you hand it to somebody, and you're transferring bricks of gold back and forth, then that's very expensive and very hard to do. And so if you then go for it.
I was gonna say, this is why I hate Mike Moss or whatever.
Mark Moss.
Mark Moss.
It's because he's very technical and everything.
No, because that's like so wrong. Like, yes, if that was the plan of action, was the gold standard and everybody's gonna have gold tokens and gold bars to be trading with everybody, but that's not how the new gold system is set up and gonna be set up.
Yes, but the gold system also relies on something, and that is trust. And trust, we don't trust. Would you trust China to hold your gold for you?
No.
I mean, I wouldn't trust the U.S. government to hold our. And then you're saying nation states that have distrust in all the other nations, then to say, hold my gold for me. I don't think that's going to happen. And gold standard it's going to be, I think, a good standard. But jumping back to what he was, it's devolving. So fiat money solved a little bit, or cash, banknotes saying, hey, I have X amount of gold.
Yeah.
And it's worth this much. So if I give you that note, it's worth this amount of much.
Yeah.
And then I print out 100 more.
Yeah.
Then now that note, even though it was worth an ounce, is now only worth 1% of an ounce.
Yeah.
You know, and so you got to have trust in the system. And that's where the gold standard fails. Like, the gold standard is a great standard, and I would always recommend having at least some sort of physical gold that you can, because it's I don't think the gold standard is going to fall away. And I think there's going to be an element of relying back onto the gold or precious metals or something that is very rare and hard to get to.
Right.
And so his argument was that would be devolving, and because in money you got to trust where that money's coming from. And right now we have a lot of trust that is breaking down. Like Russia, is Russia going to want to hold money after the United States said no, we're freezing your bank accounts?
Right.
You know, like what Russians want to hold the U.S. dollar now?
Right.
You know, and so now, and China's going as quickly as they can to get rid of all their notes. And so there's an element of trust that comes along with the gold standard that you don't have if you actually have the gold.
Yeah.
So, like, we would have to ship the gold back and forth, and that'd be a very hard thing to do, and very expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
And so that's why we created paper notes. And then the whole world was revolving around trust. And then in the 70s, we're like, actually, we're not going, when Russia or Germany was like, we want our gold.
Yeah.
We're like, no.
Yeah.
We pretty much defaulted then.
Yeah.
And then we've been running on this fiat currency for the last
Right.
50 years.
Right.
We're like 30 years overdue on fiat currency.
So what's his take? What does he think money should be, or this? If he's not a fan of the gold standard, or it's devolving, what would be involving to him? Or
Bitcoin is the short answer. And so, and then also what he was saying is that the BRICS are kind of going back into the same system that we have. And, or we're going back to the gold standard, which is devolving a little bit, which I would rather have that is backed by actual physical gold, because then you can't inflate. Where the UN and the other side of the BRICS is going to want to pretty much go into a CBDC.
right.
And the CBDC is pretty much reinventing the wheel that's already there. They're like, oh, we're adding this trick that allows them to have even more control.
Right.
And so he was like, CBDCs aren't really going to go far.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's going to come to a point of it's going to leave out. Like, I think he was saying there's over 2 billion adults that do not have access to the financial system that we have left out. And now we're going into a CBDC. So those 2 billion people that are left out, now we're going to say, we're leaving you out on purpose. And so we're going to cross out a bunch of different people on the whole financial system with the CBDCs to try and to control them. And so he was saying CBDCs aren't really going to be the way of the future.
Right.
Which that's, I think, heavy of where XRP is going. And I think it's smart to have XRP.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to play both sides of the system of saying, hey, you know what? XRP, it's going to go into a system. They have a lot of great technologies going into it. They have a lot of big backing players, but there's also an element where there could have a lot of control in that.
Right.
And for me, I'm more of a free person. I think society runs better.
Yeah, for sure.
And you don't have as many harmful people when you have a free society.
Right. For sure.
Because when you cage and trap people in, and then like, you see, I told you they would do that. Like,
Right.
You're poking the bear.
Right.
It's like backing a wolf into a corner and be like, you see the wolf attack.
Right. And
It's like, yeah.
And I think there's two very different points of society working better free and societies that are free. And what I mean by that is pretty much the world's history has never been with a society that's free, except for the last 200 years in the United States, which obviously huge growth quickly. Yes, it's better, but if you look at history in general, it generally reverts back to control.
Well, we have these 250-year cycles.
Yeah, but I just mean in general, control or free.
Yeah.
But, and I think what's naive and Mark Moss is when he's talking about the gold standard, is he has a very naive thought of the traditional gold standard. I think there's a new gold standard being built today
Okay.
that it's not going to look like the gold standard of yesterday.
Which may be the case.
And I think that gold standard is going to be based off of those CBDCs, which I'm not really for. But I think it's also going to work internationally. And that's where XRP is going to come in.
Yes, I think and there's a lot of people coming in and playing with XRP, a lot of different countries.
Yeah.
From all different spectrums, even in the BRICS nations. And so we might be falling in line with the BRICS, and the BRICS, they might just be kind of pushing and then drag us, which would be a disadvantage to the last people joining that system.
Right.
But there's also a point of XRP is set for CBDCs.
Yeah.
And they stated in their website that it's set for CBDCs and each country having their own CBD. So each country could look very different with their CBDCs and how they line them out. Like the person, some lady in France was talking about the financial system, was saying that we can't let people have $100 of freedom to spend however they want, because that's how a lot of the riots have been going on in France. Instead of going down to the root problem of accepting all these immigrants without vetting them and just having an open arm and accepting everybody, and then wondering why all this is happening when you've never had that before.
Right.
And then they blame the financial system, like, oh, we need to restrict our financial freedom even more.
Right. So, yes. So, they could do, like, say you went with Mark Moss's dream of using Bitcoin. Okay. Countries could still use CBDCs with Bitcoin, in that basically coins like Dogecoin, for instance, is basically a CBDC of Bitcoin. It's a fork off of Bitcoin. So basically, it's using Bitcoin's ledger and technology, but it comes off of it. So in
that makes sense.
That aspect, I think they're doing the same thing. I think there'll be XRP as the overall ledger technology, like the Bitcoin. And then they'll have their CBDC that's based off of that ledger. And then the XRP, which is the main one, will go from bank to bank or country to country. And then from country to country, that XRP is going to be linked into gold.
Okay.
That is my prediction.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to get linked to gold, especially if I have any. Like, how am I going to buy XRP at 50 cents and then an XRP is worth an ounce of gold? Like, that to me, I don't know how that's going to tie in.
I think they'll set it. And I think they'll be like, either...
But the people that have gold, like, if you have the gold, I'm not going to give it up just so that other person can have XRP and have it linked to gold. Even if I was China or Russia or whoever on a nation state, I still wouldn't freely give my gold up for XRP because there is still a monetary value to gold.
But I think it's going to be linked to the central bank's gold, not your gold.
Interesting.
And I think that's where it will plug in that way.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the central bank being like, here's gold for your XRP.
I don't think they're going to give you gold.
Well, they're not going to give it. You're still, it's an element of trust. And that's where Mark Moss was saying is on the financial system, you have these different elements that you have to, there has to be some sort of rarity to it.
Yeah.
You know, if I could pick up a rock and be like, it's going to be worthless, you know. So there's got to be some sort of scarcity to it.
Yes.
And the current system, he was saying, we're excluding 2 billion people, and there's what, like,
Explain that to me. What does he mean we're excluding 2 billion people in the current system?
different countries and do not have access. There's 2 billion people that do not have access to the financial system.
Like dollars?
Just like the
what is
people
the
over in
financials?
Africa.
Yeah.
When we sent electricity over there, they didn't have any access to powered equipment, and they didn't have enough value to what they were doing to be able to provide. Like, they
Right.
couldn't chop enough wood to compete with someone that had a chainsaw to be able to buy a chainsaw, you know,
Yeah.
or to buy the axe to chop down the tree, then to buy the saw, then to buy the
Right.
chainsaw, you know.
Right.
Like, there's a progression that has happened. There's people that have been left out of that, and that is, I mean, countries like North Korea left out. There's people in the rural areas that have been left out of it just due to the hardship of being able to get it to them.
Right.
And so more and more people have been granted access to the monetary system through the phones, which is good. But he was saying that there are still 2 billion people, which leaves out how many people? I mean, that's what, there's 7 billion people on Earth? That's almost a quarter of the people don't have access to the monetary funds, the financial system.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy in of itself. I mean, it doesn't make their life better or worse.
Yeah.
Make it happier or more purposeful, you know.
Yeah.
But so having, like, Bitcoin doesn't discriminate. So you could have access. If you could get Bitcoin, you can have access to it. It's not something like I could trade for Bitcoin or whatever. I'm not left out of the whole system.
Yeah. A dollar isn't, what do you call it, racist?
Yeah, but the banking system, like the physical dollar, yes, but the CBDCs is going to exclude even more people because they want to control and know everything that you're doing.
Yes. I guess I'm just trying to get back to, like, those 2 billion people. There's nothing stopping those 2 billion people of being a part of the financial system if they wanted to.
Like Russia, he's probably excluding Russia and maybe even China out of that whole system because, like, I mean, how many people in China have access to the financial system? How many people in Russia have access to the financial system?
But I guess what I'm saying is those same 2 billion people, if they somehow can't get a part of the current financial system that is fiat with paper money and sort of digital banks or whatever, how does he think that if it was a perfect world for him and it went with Bitcoin, how are they going to get plugged in? They'd be even more out of it because they don't even have running
like
water.
Banking system, like on Bitcoin, does it ask you for your ID? Does it ask you for your address?
They don't even have a cell phone to put it on. They don't have a thumb drive.
Yeah.
At least they can hold a piece of paper.
True.
So that's why I think he's like, oh, Bitcoin would be the perfect way to go. And it would somehow not exclude those 2 billion people. Well, it would exclude probably more than those 2 billion people because they wouldn't have the technology to hold the Bitcoin. They wouldn't have a thumb drive. They wouldn't have a thumb drive to plug it in. They wouldn't have access to internet or whatever to put the Bitcoin on or to sell the Bitcoin. Versus, like, it's easier at the moment where you can hand them a 20 or...
Yeah, I mean, you can hand them a flash drive and then they can go to another spot and hand them a flash drive.
But if I go back to my village and I have a flash drive that I have no idea if there's 10 Bitcoin or a half a Bitcoin on it,
yeah,
and
it's
I have
also
no way to
education
plug
on
it in.
how to know how to verify that and everything. So there is a learning curve that is going to have to go into that.
Yeah, I just think that's a lot bigger than even the current system.
It might be.
Because they can't plug it into a
He
coconut.
thinks that it's not going to be, though.
Well, he's smoking something.
He has a lot more research into it than I have, though.
Yeah, he has a lot of old research. Sorry.
But, and then also, I think transparency, when he brought up transparency, I thought that was a huge factor. Because if we go into, say, something of gold backed that is based in China, I'm not going to want part of that system.
Right.
If it's based in, like, I don't know what country I would really want, to be honest.
No, I understand his point from like, oh, if I could choose CBDCs or Bitcoin. Totally get where he's coming from. Or like, yeah, Bitcoin would be a better avenue because it's more of an open ledger than CBDCs locked down and control. I'm on board with him there.
Yeah,
I get it.
like, I mean, they tried in Nigeria to put in the CBDCs, and they're already using Bitcoin because the financial system was so bad over there that their bank was just like, I mean, you might as well just burn the paper at that point type of a situation. So people were already using Bitcoin, and then they went into saying, no, you got to use our own CBDCs, and it failed catastrophically. And now we're going to try that on pretty much every system, which is going to be a fun ride. So, and then he was also saying Bitcoin is borderless, like it can go through borders.
Yeah.
And with ease. Need permission to join. So Bitcoin, you don't need permission to join. If you want a bank account, you have to sign up, show your ID, and get permission. If you live in the wrong area, you're not going to be able to get. And like governments can withhold that from you as well, saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to give you a passport, so you're not going to have an ID, and so therefore you're not going to have the ability to have access to that whole system.
Basically, Bitcoin is the new cash.
Yes, I think for larger transactions and funds, and then you're going to have your technologies like Dogecoin that is based off of Bitcoin.
Right.
To go off of that. And that would probably be a little better to have something of that nature for your smaller transactions, but for your big nation and bank transfers like XRP is trying to be. So, like, I would almost recommend have Bitcoin and have XRP.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? Like, yeah, you caught down on the bottom of XRP.
Right.
But, and maybe instead of paying 50 cents for Bitcoin, you're paying $40,000 now.
Yeah.
But like Kathy Wood said, if it progressed at 60%, that 40,000 is now in like 5 to 7 years worth $1 million. If you go like 8 years, it's worth 1.5.
Yeah, for sure.
Know?
100%.
And so, and then he was also saying it's trustless. So, like, you don't, all the different countries, it really comes down to trust. Do you trust those countries to hold it? And then Bitcoin is you have it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what his huge thing is. If you actually, you're holding something that might be worth $1 million on a flash drive, you know? Where gold, you would have to have a pallet.
For sure. And I guess my counter argument to that is inherently Bitcoin has no value.
Gold inherently has no value.
It's just we assigned it value.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
Supply
then there's
and
also
demand.
worth to it. What problem does gold solve? Like on airplanes, the windshield will have a thin layer of gold on it that beads up the water, and so the water runs off of it in the airplane because you're not going to have a windshield wiper going at 500 miles an hour.
Right.
You know, so there's different worths to it. Like there's elements that are used in computers and with silver especially and all that. And so, and then you have jewelry and you have all that. So, and then you have an assigned value to it of the rarity of it.
Right, which that assigned value of the rarity of it is where the value comes for all of it. And then it's like, well, who controls the assigned value?
I heard 2 people in London,
Okay.
or a board of people in London. And
So
supposedly gold right now is super suppressed as well. Because if you actually had gold to be the value of what it really should be, then you would then automatically be assigning failure to your system. So, like if I printed, say, 30 times or say 5 times the amount of money and gold goes up 50%, people are like, oh, I'm 50% richer. But you just printed 5 times the amount of money
Right.
into it. And so gold, instead of being, say, 2,000, it should be worth 10,000, and you're happy that it moved up to 3,000. You know? And
Yeah.
so, and if it went up to 5,000 or 10,000, then people would be like, okay, there is something wrong with the system.
Yeah.
And you would probably have runs on banks and all that kind of stuff, which is eventually going to happen.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so that's probably why they want to go into the CBDC, so they can be like, oh, sorry, you can only pull out $100
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
Or you can only spend it on this. Like, you can only spend this much on this item and this item, you
Yeah.
know. So that's going to be very interesting. And then, so Bitcoin, it solves the problem by being decentralized and having that ledger be decentralized, where XRP is very centralized. Pretty much every other crypto. I think Solana is trying to get more decentralized as
Right.
well.
And that's where get like a little bit confused, is like, how does something become decentralized or centralized? Like I understand the concept of centralized and decentralized, but I don't understand, like, oh, we're working on getting it decentralized. Well, what does that mean? Like,
So, like, Solana is always going to have, like, an element of centralization, because they're always going to have a board and they're going to always have, like, their updates and all that.
Okay.
With Bitcoin, we don't really have those updates. We don't really have that board saying this is the way
Right, it's
Bitcoin is
just-
going to go. Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is. And so that's what really ultimately gives it the decentralization of it all. And then you have your, like Solana or whatever, that's saying, hey, I want to become like that, but they're still wanting to hold on and have those updates and siphon off a little bit of money for that for themselves, which isn't bad in of itself.
yeah.
But you can switch on a dime, like Ethereum did,
Yeah.
saying we're going from being decentralized to centralized
Yeah.
on their update.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, like, yeah, it might be a more efficient and better solution, but then you're adding that element of trust
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And right now, trust is very important.
Yeah.
And it's not given out freely, especially within nation states.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Well, thank you very much, people, for joining us. Please like, comment, subscribe,